Hello, everybody, and welcome to another week of Creating Conscious Relationships. I'm Catherine.
And I'm Jon.
And we are excited to be back and to continue our conversation about creating conscious relationships. First off, happy Father's Day to
Happy Father's Day.
all of...
Yes, to all the fathers, men, people that are just in that fatherly aspect of anyone's lives. It is a very important thing and somewhat impactful to many generations. So,
Yes,
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day. So just a recap of where we were last week. Last week we were talking a lot about perspectives, and we were using the jar analogy to talk about the different ways everybody looks at the same thing and how just having that different perspective can add a different nuance into the relationship or the way that you're viewing an experience.
Yeah, I mean, we also talked about radical honesty and
Yes.
and whatnot. So, but yeah, I mean, so our discussion today is basically
An add-on.
an add-on to that perspective, or the perspective and radical honesty piece, and just, I guess, a different take on how relationships come together, and how there's things that perspective-wise we don't pay attention to.
Yeah.
And we should. And they're important little things, and they're the little things that slip through the cracks, but they do set the tone for other things if they're not discussed.
Yeah, so it's really the influences that we don't necessarily look at when we're starting in relationship with people, and often even after you've been in relationship with someone for a very long time, sometimes you're not looking at what has shaped this individual to be the way that they are, to think the way that they do, to love the way that they do, to receive in the relationship the way that they do. And so we've got a little bit of a demonstration
Well,
for you
it's
guys.
actually a challenge, right? Like, I mean, when we were talking about this, we often, after our calls, we'll have a discussion about how the call went and all those kind of things. And we did that, and then we went, there needs to be a little more behind this. There's more to this topic than what we felt that we covered.
Yeah.
And kind of want to get, I guess, some engagement, right? And we thought, there's a challenge in this. I mean, we talked about the cup. We talked about, the structure. We talked about the content. We talked about what's in the cup, what's out, this, that, and the other thing. But we didn't really go into the fine details of all of that. We just kind of gave that broad paintbrush spectrum across the board.
Yeah.
So this challenge, this is a challenge for you as well. I think will help people. It'll help build your relationship. It'll help you understand your relationship. It'll help you understand maybe things that you didn't, that you took for granted, or maybe things that you didn't understand about your partner and where they were coming from.
Yeah, and sometimes even where you yourself are coming from, because sometimes I think we don't even realize what our previous experiences have been and the influence that they can have on the present day.
Yeah.
Like we're so running in the present day, but most of us are actually running in the past and reacting to the present day from the way that the past showed up or the different situations of the past, and just how much influence that can actually have in just day-to-day interactions.
I agree.
So essentially, what we're talking about today, I'm sure you can see, we've got 3 red Solo cups that are sitting here on the table. And if you can imagine, this red Solo cup, this is me before I met Jon. And this red Solo cup, this is Jon before he met me. Now, you guys can't see at home, but inside we've got some slips of paper. And the slips of paper, you can take your cup. The slips of paper are the experiences that I had before Jon showed up in my life. Okay, so I'm just pulling out a piece of paper, and the piece of paper that I've pulled out, it says grief. So I came into the relationship having grief, and John's got, what do you have? Disappointment. So we both have different emotions that are showing up in our lives, but we come into the relationship and we're, showing the best of ourselves in this relationship. I love you, you love me, this is all great, we've got all these great feelings, and we start to actually put ourselves into a structure together, okay? And so now, I still have my own individual cup, he still has his own individual cup, but now we share a cup together. This is the third, right? It's the relationship. But when you start to go into different conversations or you have different experiences that are coming up, say I get triggered, and I've got, oh, that's funny, I've got grief coming up. Now, grief is something I brought into the relationship, but I may not have shared that with John. I may have said to him, yeah, my dad died when I was 16, so I've got some grief that's in my heart. And he might go, okay, I understand that, but he doesn't actually understand where that grief is going to start coming into the relationship.
Well, or how that grief plays out, the dynamic of that grief, all the little parts that grief actually touch.
Yeah.
Grief is a broad.
It's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, we actually experienced that at the beginning of our relationship right around Christmas time. Yeah. And I was having a hard day and I was feeling extra sensitive. And we went to a movie, which was P.S. I Love You. And when you're someone who's dealing with grief and feeling really sensitive around grief, to go and watch that movie, it really just broke me open in a really big way. But then at least I could talk about it. And
actually, when you think back, I mean, some of the first days of our relationship, my grandmother had just passed away.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, I was also bringing grief into the relationship, or had grief at that point as well. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And so these little, I don't even want to call them little, grief, it's a big one in relationships. I think we've all lost someone that we love. We've all, went through heartache in losing someone, whether it's from this physical world or just breakdowns of relationships. There's grief in that as well. Yeah. And so grief is showing up, but what we're做about is who didn't do the dishes, and it's grief that's showing up. It's really important that you understand what is the emotion that's coming up. What is the thing that's influencing this current experience in the relationship?
Absolutely. Yeah, so, I mean, the whole idea, we were talking about this experiment that you can do. So you think about this is your relationship. These are all the things that you combine together. Some of the things you see, some of the things you don't see, right? So there's a mixed bag of stuff that's in here. So again, not last week we talked about the cup, we talked about content, we talked about how you see it, how clear it is, but it's the finer things. You have to dig down right into that final grain of sand and look at every little piece. Yeah. And have empathy and have compassion for your partner for what those things are.
Yeah, and for yourself as well. And I think, because the other part of this, so we're going to take this red Solo cup and we're going to actually pour it into a clear cup. Because most of us in a relationship, we don't think about what is the content that we're holding on to in our relationship. What are the buildups of resentment? What are the buildups of disappointment? And whether or not it's from your partner, or it's from the past that's now being influenced in the present moment. But to understand that we all, every single one of us, whether it's in partnership or with our parents, with our kids, with our siblings, we all have a cup in which we store all of our emotions. And they are going to come up in different relationships, playing with each other essentially, or playing out on each other. Not because...
Well, and so, sorry to interrupt, but no, this is a great analogy, because we come into relationships like this. So we have the papers in here, right? You can't see in the cup. You can just see the cup. You know that everybody's got issues. But then you will get to a point where you can see the issues, but you're not really talking about the issues.
Good
right?
point. Yeah.
You can see, I can see the pain, I can see the anger, I can see all this stuff, but it's still in the cup. It's still not really being worked on, healed, or whatnot.
And that's a really great point, because knowing that we've got issues, or knowing that this person has this pain, or knowing that this person has lost someone or whatever, that's one thing. But to truly understand it, to reach into the cup. Okay, so I've got betrayal this time that is coming in. Now, we don't know anymore, where's the betrayal coming from? Mm-hmm. You know, is it, did I betray him? Did he betray me? Have we felt betrayal elsewhere in our relationship? But it's something that's still in the cup. And this, when you can pull it out, you know, from inside of yourself to go, what I'm feeling right now is betrayed. You know, let's talk about that. And for him and I to sit and have a conversation about betrayal. What does that look like? What does that mean for you as a person when you think about being betrayed? What other emotions are attached to that? What experiences have you had that brought betrayal into your life? And how has that created a prison around you in your life because you're afraid of being betrayed again? And it's really about not finger pointing, but a willingness to understand, a willingness to dig deeper.
You want to remove the perspective and the positions and talk about the issue, right?
Yeah.
Let's not take it personal. Let's remove our perspective, hold back that angst, hold back that anger, you know, I'm not saying bury it, but let's just talk about this for right now. All of those feelings and what is coming up will come through that. But you need to talk about the matter at hand without, you know, those feelings come up. Just talk it straight out, as, you know. And most of the time when we have these discussions, it's when you remove the positionality or the perspective, you'll find that it really isn't that offensive. When we stop taking things personal and go, oh, so, you know, so-and-so didn't walk down the street the way they were supposed to, that sounds dumb. I'm using a silly example, but most of the situations we have, it's like, okay, well, yeah, that really, what did I tie to this that made me angry? What else was it that led to this? Right?
Absolutely. Because when we're attached to something, when we have an expectation on something, or how someone else is supposed to behave, or how they're supposed to show up in a relationship, or what love is supposed to look like, it can be so easy to start to resent the people who aren't meeting our expectations, to start to, you know, with an issue like betrayal, I imagine with betrayal would come a trigger of, it's not safe for me to trust people. I can't open up to people because they're going to turn their back on me eventually. So then you're dealing with like a closed heart and a disconnect in relationship. You might have fear that shows up, or every time, you know, especially if there's been infidelity or something like that, you might have fear every time the person leaves the house or whatever, that is it going to happen again? Or, you know, there's all of these different things that can kind of become a mixed bag.
Yeah.
And if you've attached a personal story to it, or you've personalized what that experience is without allowing yourself to dig deeper into it, it can become very messy. And then you're suddenly blowing up because the dishes didn't get done, or you're pissed off because they're 5 minutes late and it turns into a 3-month fight, or whatever it might be.
Some of those things could be from past relationships.
Yeah.
Could be from your parent relationship, could be from work relations. It could be, a lot of these things were influenced by social media, were influenced by friends, family, etc., etc. What is it that you own? And what is it, you know, is this actually something that's happened in your relationship, or is this something that's happened in somebody else's relationship and you're just like,
now I'm afraid of it.
Well, this happened here, so it's going to happen everywhere because that's what I've seen and that's what I know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, because the ego's job is to protect us, right? So the ego hears stuff like, you know, a betrayal or a death or something like that, and it automatically goes, everybody's going to do this.
The ego's going to do its job, right? It's going to protect you. It's going to send those alarms off.
Yeah.
No, this is exactly how this looks. Don't think anything else. Don't We have to protect the center. We have to protect, you know, you are the most important thing. And it's not wrong.
Yeah.
But it's not 100% pure and divine. Like, it's coming from a place of protection, not a place of clarity.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, in that protection, it starts to distort everything, right? It starts to label people as these ones are good and these ones are bad. These ones are trustworthy and these ones are not. This word is okay and this word is not. This tone is okay and this tone is not. And so it becomes a lot of information that is not necessarily true. And so, you know, it's so interesting to me because we can show up in relationship with people and we're adults, you know, and yet you could have a wound from when you're 10 years old that is also showing up in that relationship, and it's acting out in the relationship, and it's creating stories in that relationship. And if you're not willing to talk about it and you're not willing to dig deeper into your own inner psyche, because yes, this is about relationships with each other, but it's really about starting to have that relationship with yourself, understanding what are you putting in your own glass? Yeah. What are you adding to relationships that is having an influence on your partner, on yourself, on how you're showing up in the relationship, how they're showing up in the relationship? It really is an opportunity to get curious, to bring those relationships closer.
Oh, and I was just thinking, you know, so now we can see all the issues, and there's another dynamic that happens sometimes. You know, you have these people that are in a relationship, and so they're getting clear about their issues and whatnot, and sometimes this happens, right? This is what we should try to avoid. Where it's like, although, you know, we're clear on this, I still am going to hide this. Or I'm still going to hide this. This will only lead to more of these. Right? So, you know, it's scary, it's hard, it's difficult, but it's best to be just as clear as possible.
Yeah.
And, you know, I will go to our challenge, like the challenge that we have for you guys, and where this conversation kind of got really started was that I think it would be good for you at home, you that are watching, if you're in a relationship, I'm sure you have some sort of relationships if you're not in a relationship, is to get your cup. Have you and your partner write down these statements. And it could be statements, you know, that you may have for each other or whatever, or past traumas or differences, or I don't like this, I don't like when you, I don't know, make food this way, or I don't like, whatever the case is. Put everything in the cup. Put everything that you can think of. And it doesn't have to be done all at once. You can write statements out, just keep adding to that cup. Put all your stuff that you can think of that has affected your relationship in that cup. All these little things, put it in the cup. Just keep adding to the cup. And ideally, you know what? You don't want to fill the cup, but fill the cup if you have to. Get another cup if you have to. That's okay. I mean,
get a giant pickle jar if you need to.
Yeah, it's fine. It doesn't matter the size, whatever. Just keep adding your issues to the cup. And then, you know, every so often, every week or every month, pull one of these these statements out and see if it still resonates. See, do you still really care if the person didn't flush the toilet or peed on the toilet seat? Or does this really matter anymore? If it doesn't, and I mean if it really does, if there's still a little bit that's bugging you, it goes back into the cup. If it doesn't bother you and there's nothing in your chest, there's nothing that's building up, it goes in the garbage. It goes away.
Yeah. Because I think so often and we were having some of this influence this week too, where there was a little bit of distortion that was happening between us on Friday, and neither one of us really knew what was coming up for us or what the issue was. It literally, I woke up, I guess, on Friday morning, and there was just something weird sitting on my heart center. And I said that to him, and he heard that, and he went, okay, well, I guess I have to be a little bit more alert or more careful or whatever, trying to help me navigate whatever it was I was feeling.
Be more sensitive to whatever, I don't know, because nothing could be named as to what it was.
Yeah.
So it's just, I have a heightened awareness that there's some sensitivity. What that looks like, I don't know. So it's kind of be on alert.
Yeah. Yeah.
As to what's coming up.
And so then all throughout the day, we're kind of dancing around this, whatever it was, which led to some really great conversations on Friday night. But in those conversations, there was triggers that were coming up. There was emotions that were coming up. There was ego parts that were coming up. There was stuff in our cups that we were literally pulling out and going, let's get to the bottom of what this is. Let us connect over this. And to be aware, I've got this ego part that's showing up. I've got this part of me that's feeling sad, or this part of me that's feeling terrified, or whatever it might be. We're bringing it up, and at times we're reacting to each other, and then we move into responding to each other. And that's what we're inviting you guys to do with your partner, is to set a time where it's almost like a ritual with each other, where you're willing to pull out, just even if it's just one piece of paper. And so I've got anger that is showing up here, but just one piece of paper to go, okay, so where are you still angry? What is angering you right now? And
you can do it with your partner, and I don't think you necessarily have to do it with your partner or
not.
you
can do it with yourself.
You can look at it, just be honest about it. I mean, you're only lying to yourself. If you look at it and go, with your partner there or not, I still feel something about, okay, it's got to go back.
Yeah.
You can pull it out, and maybe the low-hanging fruit type stuff, like I said, about peeing on the toilet seat or whatever, not flushing the toilet. Yeah, you know what? In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really, I don't care.
Yeah.
So, away that goes. And there may be things that you pull out of that jar that your partner wrote that you're like, oh, I didn't know this. So, and that's an invitation for you to know your partner better, have empathy for your partner. If it is something that is, like, really strikes a core with you, then, you have to have those conversations and should do it in a constructive, healing, sensitive manner.
Yeah.
But just remember, it's just the stuff on the paper. It was in the jar. So it's not something that we need to spiral out of control about. It's just, okay, I know that we're going to have this discussion.
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah. And in that kind of ritual, whether you're doing it by yourself or you're doing it with your partner, that in that ritual, it's understanding things are going to get triggered. There's going to be emotions that show up. That's okay. We don't have to react with the emotion. We can feel the emotion and then respond from a higher place or from a higher knowing that can be aware of, this emotion is coming up at me. This is what my biggest fear is right now. This is a question that I want to ask you right now that I've been terrified to ask you, or whatever it might be, that you're willing to kind of meet that hard challenge to go, let's talk about this hard thing together. Or if it's just with yourself, I'm willing to feel everything that I'm feeling right now. I'm not going to feel it a little bit and then let my mind take over to fuel that energy and to fuel that emotion, to have it grow bigger inside of me. But I'm going to allow myself to feel all of this disappointment. I'm going to really feel it. And maybe I'm going to cry, and maybe I'm going to, have to move my body, or maybe I'm going to have to sit in silence afterwards and really meditate on it. But I'm going to be willing to feel it. And if you're with your partner, to really look at, where has disappointment played a place in our relationship? What things have you been disappointed in the past that still upset you? And again, it's not a blame game. It's about truly understanding, how have I affected you? I think that was one of the big things on Friday night, was understanding the influence that I was bringing to our relationship. And I don't know if you went through the same kind of process of just, wow, that one action I took, it meant this to you. And it's like, that wasn't my intention, but it's still the way it showed up. Yeah. Right? And that is such a harsh reality, is to, I think a lot of times in relationships, we look at the partner that, the person who's not us, we look at that person and we go, they're the problem. They're doing this and this and this and this, and very little do we actually put the mirror in front of our face and go, what have I done to contribute to this? What have I allowed? You know, if I've got disappointment in me, there's a good chance I'm going to disappoint other people. And I'm also going to continue to be disappointed by other people because I just have disappointment in me. But if I can release that disappointment, and if I can let go of expectations, because to me disappointment and expectation kind of, they run hand in hand. But if I can release those expectations, then, and come to a place of acceptance, well, acceptance equals more love. So therefore more love starts to emanate from me and to me.
Right. And I mean, we just had, literally 2 minutes ago, just had this discussion about expectation. Expectation and disappointment are on you.
Yeah.
They're not on anybody else. You've put this story together that this should be this way, and it didn't meet that, and it's you that bought into that story. It's nobody else. It's not, they didn't do this, well, they didn't know they had to do this, or they didn't know they should do this. Yeah. You, in your mind, built it up that this is what should be done, and it didn't happen that way. Therefore, who's disappointing who?
Yeah.
Nobody's disappointing anybody but yourself and your expectations of what you thought should be. So, on that note, what I was going to say about the statements is be real. You don't have to be super clear about the things that you're writing, but I would be clear enough. And with good intention, not with malice. You know, try to do it from, I don't feel understood. Or, you know, not, it doesn't have to be as specific as stop peeing on the toilet seat.
It could be, though, if it's something that really bothers
yes,
you.
Yes, it could be, but be real intentional about things. Just, ladies, you know, sometimes we're afraid to have that conversation. Here's kind of like an icebreaker. Even with partners that are together 10, 20, 30 years, there's still things that are uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that's okay. This kind of might break that ice and open your eyes. Okay, well,
yeah,
let's dive into this.
Well, and I think, you know, when I was younger, I kind of had this belief or this expectation that when you're in a relationship with someone for a very long time, you know, you see these older couples that are, you know, in their 90s and they're dancing with each other or whatever on the street, and it's like, that's the kind of love I want to have. Because we see this perfect kind of moment in time, and we have no idea how many times has this glass shattered. Yeah. You know, how many times has everything that's been inside of that glass just kind of exploded all over their face, all over their, you know, experience, influenced, and, you know, we break each other's hearts. Yeah. You know, we're not perfect. Humans are not perfect. We're flawed in that sense, and we're all very self-serving. Even those of us who are wanting to give, a lot of times it's still self-serving. And so it's not so much to me about that it should look joyful and beautiful all of the time and like dancing. Like I do hope we dance when we're 90. Yeah. You know? But it's, to me, it's what are you doing in these moments? In the moments where you're looking at the glass and you're going, what is it that's coming up inside of us right now? And to have that conversation, especially to have that conversation before either of you are triggered, you know, where if we're just sitting down tonight, you know, and I'm in a good mood, you're in a good mood, we're in a good place to just, you know, have a conversation, and we pull something out and it's judgment. Okay, let's talk about judgment. Where have you felt judged in your life? Where have I felt judged? When do I feel judged by you? When do you feel judged by me?
Yeah, and not all of this, so part of this challenge, I would say, it's not necessarily, you know, partner to partner. It could be whatever you are feeling, put in the cup. And your cup should never be like this. Okay?
You don't think it should be empty?
No. We all have things. We all have things that we're always going to hold on to. Let's be 100% honest. We're never going to get rid of all of this stuff. There's always going to be somebody that has a trigger for this or a trigger for that. there's always going. Sure, the cup may be empty at one point, but tomorrow you're going to add something, or somebody's going to add something to your cup. Right?
Okay.
So, to be empty is not a terrible thing, but don't have this expectation, because now we're setting an expectation. Oh, okay, the only time you can have a good relationship is if you have an empty cup. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that everybody always has got issues, and we've got problems, and we've got whatever differences. They're going to be there. Just recognize them. Grief can be in here.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
But we recognize what's in this cup.
Yeah. To me, I guess I'm like, I would like to shift, I think, what's on the paper. So if there's been judgment before, I would want to shift into forgiveness. Let's talk about forgiveness. Let's talk about acceptance and whatnot. And here's the thing. I know I've got lots of stuff that comes up. I've got lots of different positionalities and whatnot. I also believe that the response time that both of us have, where we move from like reaction into response, because I think we've said it on these videos before that the ego reacts in like 1/10,000th of a second. So to be able to catch it and to go, oh, that's my ego, sometimes doesn't happen right away. And what we were saying this past week is like, there's been times where we've had triggers come up in our relationship where it's like, a month, and we're still kind of both reacting to whatever that trigger was, or we're arguing about it, or just not seeing eye to eye, not really listening to understand. We're just, battling heads. Yep. And now it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Well, Friday was a prime example, right? It was, I would say, 2 to 5 minutes where it was like a statement was made, which then resulted in triggering of an ego. Yeah. That ego came up. The other ego came up, and it dissolved pretty quickly because it was like, oh. Yeah. And then that led to, and here's the thing, they're hard discussions to have. But in the aftermath or after the discussions and whatnot, it's so much better. You get so much more clarity of, it's like, oh shit, I did that. But we, you have gratitude for how fast you have that awareness. And you only get that by having these discussions and practicing and doing it. But not by burying it in something that you can't see, right? This doesn't solve anything. This will get you somewhere. This won't get you very far.
Yeah, because these become like prisons, right? When we've got stuff that we are hiding inside of ourselves, and it's like, I love you, and I want to love you, and I'm willing to show you all of me, except for this part here. And it's going to influence absolutely every conversation and interaction that we have, this hidden part. But I don't want to share that with you because you might stop loving me. And that's essentially how the mind starts to think, is I can't show this one part. If I do, they're going to disappear. But what often can happen is when you go, this is my most ugliest part. Like, can you love me in this? I'm so ashamed of it. I don't want to be seen with it. And when they take it and they go, you know what, I'm going to love you anyways. Do you know how healing that in itself is?
Yeah, I've got that too.
Yes.
Look what's in the jar. Here's mine.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great point that you bring up there, is that so often we carry such deep shame over what our experiences have been, or what our thoughts are, or how we've reacted to things in the past, maybe things that we've done in the past, and we're like, damn, I fucked up. But when you can have a conversation with someone and you go, yeah, this is my ugliness, this is my vulnerability, this is my humanness, this is all of my imperfection, and they go, yeah, I've got that too, or I've got something similar to that, or I understand. That is so powerful and healing.
Yeah, and I would say in regards to this challenge, and we'll recap what exactly closer to the end, but don't make it a chore. This is all about love. This is not about, oh, I've got to do this thing, and if I don't do this thing, it's not. This is purely about loving your partner, wanting to understand, wanting to heal things, wanting to be a better person than you were yesterday. Yeah. it is a building exercise. It's not a chore.
Well, and I was trying to say that before, and then I think, I don't know, about it being an exercise. It's a practice, right? You don't get strong by, just walking 3 steps a day and going, that's enough. That's all I'm going to do. You have to consistently show up and lift the heavy weights, have challenging conversations in order to get better at it. So I can honestly say, like, our conscious conversations that we had at the beginning of our relationship back in 2006 we're not that conscious. No. And even 5 years ago I could say they still really weren't that conscious. We were getting better at it, but it took a lot of practice. And now it's sometimes like, well, no, let's talk about this consciously. Let's choose to look at this in a way so that our emotions are not the thing that's taking over and becoming the character that's showing up.
Yeah, it reminds me of that quote that I've seen, I can remember, was like about the universe, right? And you have a guy that's sitting there, and it basically says, I have to give you challenges so you would move. I think about that. That's all this is. It's your call to action. Yep. It's your call to be. It's your call to move. Whether it's move in here, move out the door, move around, whatever it is, it's a call to action. These challenges, these little things, are an invitation.
Yeah. And it's such an invitation to grow in your relationship and grow in your understanding, grow in your communication style, grow in your emotional intelligence. Like, yes, there's influence in the relationship, but even for you to do it all on your own. And because I know there's some people out there that they're like, I'm doing all of the healing work right now, and my partner is not, he doesn't want to be a part of it, or he doesn't want to look at it, or he can't talk about it yet. It's okay. It doesn't matter whether it's man or woman that's not showing up to do the work. If you're willing to do the work, there will be an influence that starts to naturally happen. Mm-hmm. Right now, just focus on you. What are the things you've got in your cup? And can you have your own cup be clear enough that you're aware of all of the things that are influencing yourself and your reactions and your triggers, and that understanding of the self is so important. A lot of us have been taught, it's about looking at this outside world and paying attention to how the world reacts to us. If you think of like a young child just coming into the world, and they see their parents, and they see their parents interacting, and they see their parents interacting with them, the child is naturally taking in this information to mean something about them. That is just how we're designed. And as we grow older and older and older, we continue to interact with the world in that same way, where we often think it's all a reflection of us. We think I'm the one who's, causing them to be upset, or I'm the reason my parents divorced. I'm the reason my parents have struggles with money. And, we start to create the absolute worst stories about ourselves based on how we think the world is reacting to us.
And just remember, that is your ego. Your ego is, and trying to protect you. It will tell you these things to keep you in that not moving, basically.
Yeah. Well, because, if you move, then the ego has to die off.
Right.
Like, and different parts of the ego is what I should say.
Yeah. And, I would say die off. It has to get with the program. It has to change. And the ego is so hard to this, I am this way, I am not going to change, I am who I am. No, you are who you are right now, because tomorrow you'll be somebody else.
Yeah, the ego part is so interesting, especially when it comes to relationships and how we're all kind of being influenced by what's inside of this cup. Right? And the ego might automatically go, hey, it's not me that has betrayal, again. It's not me that has betrayal, it's you. And the ego will automatically look at that person and go, you're the one, you're the one, you're the one. Instead of putting up that mirror to go, oh, I'm the one. Because understanding, even when I say putting up the mirror, he's a reflection of me. Everything that he brings to the relationship is either an aspect of myself that I'm wanting to bring out more so, or it's an aspect of myself that I've allowed to be like completely dormant, or like ashamed of, pushed it away, or something I've embraced about myself, and those two aspects dance with each other.
Well, and you bring up a good point where it's like when you pull that, whatever that is, out of the jar, not to figure point, right?
Yeah.
Is to look at, okay, if I'm looking at this in judgment, how am I judgmental? How have I judged this? How, not just your partner, but how do I own this? Because what we've noticed, there is a lot of times where there's things that we're feeling that really we own. That it is us that is not the problem, but it's like, yeah. I needed to hear that. Mm. But I'm telling you, you need to hear it, but it's really me that needs to hear it. So we're doing that mirroring. And this is kind of that same invitation. It's like, if you can look at this and go, without that judgment of who owns it, and go, okay, what is this? And how do I do this? Or how, you know.
Yeah. Because understand that everything that's triggered inside of you, every belief that you have about every person that you've ever encountered in your life, or that you see on TV, or you see in movies, or on the news, or whatever, every single person is a reflection of you. And how you feel about them is actually an internalized way of how you feel about yourself. Okay? And it's, I don't know if I said that correctly, but it ultimately, yes, because if you see someone, say, on TV who's very greedy, right, you might be like, I hate that character. That person, they're so greedy, and, you know, finger point on them, and I shouldn't be compassionate towards them because look at how greedy they are. Meanwhile, you might be someone who's constantly over giving, and, you know, you give way too much, and you give to the point where you're feeling empty, and what you could actually really benefit from is some greed. You know, is to be like willing to go, I deserve to take in right now as well. Or it could be that when you were a child, maybe you took 3 cookies, and now then your mom said, you know, you're so greedy, you should have left more cookies or whatever, so now you're ashamed, right? And you go, that part of me isn't lovable. If I'm greedy, I'm not loved anymore. So I can't love anybody else who's greedy either. Instead of understanding, like, really, what is it that makes a greedy person? What is it that makes someone want to take so much in? You know, could it be that they're in a state of abundance right now? Is that what they're showing us? It's like, you know, they're in this state of abundance. They can take it all in. Is it possible that maybe there's a struggle with power? Or, you know, there's all these different things that it could be.
There's definitely a lack, right? At some point. Like, all of these, everything's got a yin and yang.
Yeah.
So if you look at shame, or you look at whatever, I mean, it doesn't matter. Everything has a polar opposite to what it is.
Because, yeah, it's like shame is a good thing. If, you know, I know I stole some shit when I was younger, and then there was shame in the fact that I had stolen stuff. And so that shame creates a kind of persona that goes, I'm no longer going to steal stuff because I don't like that feeling of shame. So it's like, okay, shame was beneficial there. But then there's also that kind of internalized shame that's like, I'm a horrible person because... But
there was lack there that caused the theft, that caused the shame, right? So, I mean, you just can keep going and keep going and keep going.
Yeah.
It always usually starts with, there's something missing. There's something that wasn't filled.
Yeah.
And then we go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. So...
And there's one thing I wanted to mention is, you know, we talked about this, You can also do, and we've done before, is having a gratitude jar, and some of you may have done the same, where, you know, you write down these things that you're grateful for. This is very much similar. It's just, it's a little more difficult.
Yeah, and it really, it's not a bitch jar.
No.
You know, it's not like I'm pissed off because they did this and they did that and whatever. But as you go throughout the day, notice what are the different emotions that come up for you. You know, oh, I felt some fear there. I felt a little bit of anger. I felt a little bit of annoyance, or whatever it might be. Pop it into the jar and then allow yourself to get curious with it every time you sit down with that and go, okay, where is this still valid for me?
Yeah, and I think a lot of us will be amazed that you'll pull something out and go, I don't even know what this is. And how many of us have had that experience where it's like, you know, you had some sort of trauma or some sort of difference or some sort of argument, you imagine, and you pull that out of the jar and you're like, I don't even remember this happening.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't need to be in there, right? Like that, you've already.
It's kind of like seeing old Facebook statuses where you're very cryptic about something and you're like, what the hell was I talking about? What was I even doing at that point in time? What was I, so angry about or whatever? Because a lot of times the things that we're so fired up about, in 5 years, we're never going to remember that we were so fired up about it. But the thing that we'll still remember or still possibly be carrying is that actual anger, right? Because the anger is never about what is happening out here. It's something that's inside of you. So if you're pushing it down and you're kind of, hiding it inside of your own cup and going, nobody can see this, there's a good chance in 5 years it's still going to be there. But if you get curious about it, if you allow yourself to look at it, to give yourself compassion for whatever those experiences have been for you that have built that anger up over time, eventually you get to a point where, yeah, you can still have anger come up, but maybe it's not controlling you. Maybe it's not something you're holding on to for 5 years or...
I agree. And what I was going to add to that is, as much as this stuff may be gone, this stuff won't be, right? Like, you and your partner will still be there. Mm. So as much as, sure, we can clear these things. We don't have to clear them, but you're committed to each other. So why not work together on this?
Yeah.
Right? Work on clearing that so this is as close as it can be. And, sometimes like this. So...
Alrighty.
Yeah. So, our challenge simply is this. Get a cup, get a vessel, whatever it is. It could be a jar. It doesn't have to be, it could be a solo cup. Write down those statements. Put them in, whatever comes up. And then ever so often, go through them. And does this make sense? And if you take one out, tell your partner, hey, you know what? I seen this. I know I wrote this. It doesn't resonate with me. I don't feel this way. I was having a bad day, whatever. I threw it in the garbage.
Yeah.
I would still have the discussion. This is what I wrote, blah, 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 blah. But I got rid of it.
Yeah. And if you want to add an extra kind of layer of fun to it, if you're just writing things down that are like, I'm angry about this, or I'm ashamed about this, or I'm fearful about this, if it's like anger statements, maybe write it on one color of paper. And if it's shameful statements, maybe write it on a different color of paper. And you can kind of see, throwing it all into the jar, what is the most dominant or foundational emotion that you're carrying inside of you right now. Okay?
I'm more of I like the surprise.
I like to look at what is... So, for myself, I think... There was a time where I thought, my foundation was really based on grief, right? And I could look at all these different things and go, yep, see, the grief was such a line of, it was always there. But then really when I started to kind of pull myself apart a little bit more and really look at the different experiences that I've had throughout my life, shame was actually, it was a lot more influential, right? And so that's where I think like the color coding of it or whatever is helpful, because if shame's the big thing, you could actually clear up anger by dealing with shame.
Yes.
Right? You could clear up grief by dealing with shame. Yeah. Like there's all these kind of potentialities, and if you can see it as like, oh, this is the foundation, well, maybe in a couple of months from now, if all you've been working on is clearing out your shame and healing your shame and exposing yourself to the greatness or the divinity that you are instead of the shame, then maybe you're upping your kind of foundational level and now you're at anger. And it's like, okay, well, at least I'm not ashamed anymore. I've got a lot of anger that has to come out. I've got a lot of anger that I need to heal. But hey, it's getting better. And
color them or don't color them.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Put them in your cup. And then ever so often, like I said, pull one out, have the discussion. The other big thing is, notice how many things you have in the cup, and maybe even have a conversation about that. I see the cup's getting full. Should we have a conversation?
Mm.
Yeah.
And I mean, ideally, you don't actually need to even have a cup. Ideally, it's like, hey, we've got some emotions that are coming up right now. Let's have a discussion about it. But I understand that that's not always viable for people.
Yes.
Yeah.
But as part of the challenge,
yes, grab a cup.
A vessel, a cup, whatever, and celebrate both, right? Have the discussion, have the hard discussion, celebrate, hey, we only have 2 or 3 things in the cup, or hey, you know what, we went through and we've had these hard conversations. Reward yourself for those things as well. Honor each other.
Yeah.
Be grateful. Hey, you know what, we had this really hard conversation, and we just had this experience. We had this really hard conversation, and I was like, yes, but we need to be grateful for this is a lesson. This is what we take away, and we are ever smarter and more aware today than we were yesterday because of this conversation.
Yeah.
Because if we didn't have this conversation, we'd be still coming from a different place where we've closed that gap. And maybe it's not 100% closed, but at least we have a better awareness and we have a better approach to resolving or getting to those finer details, right?
Yeah. And it really can be an invitation to connect with one another. You know, when you create that kind of container with each other, that's like, okay, we're going to talk about what's going on in the cup here. And maybe you're taking a moment beforehand to, you know, set that intention. Like, I want to love you through this. I want to hear you. I want to understand you. I want to hold you in compassion, and also doing that for yourself. I want to hear you. I want to love you. I want to, you know, be understanding of what your experience is as well as you're talking to yourself. And then for you to exchange in that instead of just coming in and going, all right, it's Friday night at 7, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, create a space around it.
Yeah, don't make, again, I'll reiterate that. Don't make it a chore.
Yeah.
Make it a something, yes, we know it's not something that everybody wants to do, but it can be so beneficial and so rewarding.
Yeah.
But you just need to take that step. We all don't want to do the dishes, but we all want to eat off of clean
plates,
flatware, right? Like, yeah. So it's just, okay, yeah, we've got to do some renovations. Let's do some renovations. Let's do some cleaning. Let's do the things that need to be done. That's all it is. It's not a chore, really. It's just one another. I mean, it sounds like a chore now that I say it, but it's not. I mean, these things are just things that need to be done. Yeah. You could not do the dishes and eat off dirty plates and then get sick and go to the hospital and get sicker and, you know.
Well, and I was just going to say, that's kind of what it looks like in relationships, right? Like, if you're not willing to have the hard conversations in a moment of peace where you're both willing to sit down and have that conversation, what needs to be said is going to come out, but it's most likely going to come out in an argument, right? And in arguments, when you're all ready, you know, you're ready to fight and you're angry and you're pissed off and you're feeling resentful and whatnot, we often aren't coming into that state from a state of awareness, right? We're being fueled by the emotions, or the emotions are fueling us, and everything that we say, we become the character of the emotion instead of being our true, how we truly want to be, or how I truly want to be. Yeah. And
just remember, there's no winners or losers, or you know, I feel better and this person doesn't feel better. This challenge is to make everybody feel better.
Yeah.
And talk through it. And if you ever need extra support, if you're having this conversation or you want to know our process or how we work through these things, by all means, we're available.
Yeah.
You know, we will have that conversation.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. In fact, we would love to have that conversation, or to witness the two of you and kind of give pointers or whatever, as to what could be done in a more healthy way, or what is being said without being said, or whatever. But that is some, I'm going to say, little sprinklings of things that are coming forward from us over the next couple of months.
It's an invitation for us, right? It's an invitation to connect with people. It's an invitation. And it doesn't have to be both of us. I mean, you could reach out to Catherine, you can reach out to me. whatever the case may be, we're always available, always willing to have these conversations. It is something that we continue to work on, and just want to help people work on that as well.
Yeah. Do you want to wrap up jar?
Was it that time already? It is that time. This is our jar. No.
This is our jar of questions for the week. We're getting to that time again, so let's just see. It's kind of a getting to know us. What is the most attractive quality you find in someone?
Confidence and integrity I find are like, they overrule a lot of things. Like if you're an integral person, you have a high ethics and whatnot. To me, that is like, okay, I find that attractive. Not necessarily looks. I know everybody goes by, oh, it's gonna be this size or this size, the hourglass or whatever. But to me, those are, confidence is probably number one. I mean, you can be whoever you want to be, just own it. Be that person, whatever that is. You can be a new person every day if you want, but be that person and absolutely own it. Don't fake it.
Awesome. And I would say the most attractive quality I find is vulnerability and authenticity. Like when I meet someone or get to know someone and they're opening their heart to me and they're, it kind of goes into honesty too. Like there's a lot of things that I find attractive about a lot of people, and it really isn't about looks. It's more about what they're speaking. It's what they're saying. It's what they're sharing of themselves. And that.
Like honesty, integrity.
Yeah.
It kind of goes hand in hand, right?
Yeah, because it's so interesting because I think a lot of us are told that there's kind of an idea of like the perfect partner, of what someone should look like or be like or anything like that. And it's, at the end of the day, most of that stuff doesn't matter. Our bodies change, we get older, but it's those core values of like the integrity, the honesty, the authenticity, the willingness to open up, to share. I think those are the qualities that you keep building. They get better with age.
Well, that's, you look at movies and shows and whatnot, a lot of these attractive people, they package in attractive, but the characters is usually what we're attracted to. You don't look at the actor, you look at the actor as the character, which that character has these traits that are attractive to you. It's not necessarily the character that's attractive. Yeah,
absolutely. Anyways, thank you so much, everyone who joined us here tonight for another episode of Creating Conscious Relationships. We are so grateful for each of you, and we look forward to connecting with you again next week. As always, if you have any questions for us, any feedback, any comments, or any topic that you're wanting us to cover, by all means, email us at info@compassionwithcatherine.com. Send a message to our Facebook page or private message. All right. Have a great night, everyone.
Take care, folks.